What's up, everybody? Time for another quick tip. Welcome back to the show, channel, whatever you want to call it. Today is quick tip 14, reaching back into the archives about a year and a half for the Stubble. And it's kind of it's one of my favorite ones, honestly, because, and I don't know if you can tell or not, but I didn't shave for this one. But, yeah, I don't know. Stubble is just like, it's that one little, it's so small. It's such a small detail, but it brings so much character into a miniature. And there's a lot you can do with it. It can be hair, like topical hair. It can be your facial hair. For those of you who like Kingdom Death, it could be nether region hair. Wherever you're trying to show shaved hair that is growing back. But typically we think of like grizzly men, space marines, barbarians, etc., whatever. So in this tutorial, I'm going to give you two examples, actually, if I remember correctly. I shot this a year and a half ago. It's on my Patreon. All of my quick tips are on my Patreon for at least a year exclusively, and now I'm slowly releasing them out to the public. So if you're interested in tutorials or checking out quick tips early, you can, of course, check out my Patreon. I've got my cat bugging the crap out of me right here. You want to say hi? He's not interested because he's Stubble right now. No, he's not Stubble right now. I'm kidding. But anyway, check out the video. I'm going to give you two different options here. We're going to give you kind of like the more advanced technique for Stubble, and then I also show you kind of a like tabletop friendly basic version of Stubble. So go ahead, check out the video, and if you're enjoying the channel, do me a favor, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Of course, a like and a comment. Of course, now he wants to jump up. Hey, buddy. And then if you're not aware, I also stream 3 nights a week on Twitch. I'll put all my links down below. And of course, I am now selling retail on my website, Impendingduff.com. I have brands like AK Interactive, Ammo MiG, Abtalung, and Vallejo. So check out my website. Yeah, that's what it is. Check out my website, and if you're watching YouTube, you can use the code YouTube to save 10%. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the video. I'll see you in the next one. All right, gang. Today, the quick tip is going to be a fun one. So I've got a head here that I painted up basically to finish. This dude is ready to go. He's good to be used on a miniature, but he's got so much bare skin on him. I want to bring some character into this. So today I'm going to show you a couple of techniques on how to add stubble to your miniature. For this guy, we're going to focus on his beard, like he had shaved this morning, but he's an ultra badass grizzly man, and he has grown a 5 o'clock shadow like whoa. So essentially what we do is we finish painting our miniature's head. I prefer to paint my heads off of the miniature if ever possible, but you can do it however you want. This is a standard build-up for me. This is considered a more advanced technique here, but I'm going to show you two ways so that we can do a basic tabletop version as well. And the first thing we got to do here is we grab ourselves some sort of deep, dark blue. Best if it trends towards the gray realm. I've got dark gray blue here. And the darker the color is, the better the stubble is going to appear. Now, this spurred from a one-on-one with one of my students this week, where I was painting this Stormcast Eternal with them, and we wanted to do a little bit of a side shaved head on this chick. We actually use sky blue for this. If you want it to be more of a subtle kind of look, then by all means lighten up the blue. There is no true hard and fast rule on what blue to use, but grab yourself some sort of thinning medium. I've been using Lamian medium. This is a new mix for me that I've been trying to just replace Lamian medium for how expensive it is. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take it over here, and I'm going to essentially create myself a glaze of this really, really dark, kind of desaturated navy-ish, I guess it's a navy-ish blue. But I want to keep it thin. I don't want to get too crazy. That's way too pigment rich right there. So what I want to do is grab another load of this pigmentation here and kind of get it real nice and thin. Now this is of course the method of glazing that I always use as far as thinning things down. I'm going to just go ahead and speed this up. This is just a mix of golden glazing medium and distilled water. So I'm going to add another drop of that there. This is my my new mix that I've been working with, trying to find an alternative to Lamian. So you see how smooth or how thin that is? Super, super thin down. Probably not because the camera's not in focus. There it goes. But really, really thin down. Now the kicker here is that we use a moistened towel, paper towel preferably. But if you use a towel, it is what it is. But essentially, I got a nice little moistened patch of paper towel here. And then I barely touch the brush to that moistened section of the paper towel, and you'll see some of that pigment does come off, but it's still very much in a controllable quantity of pigmentation on this brush. So now we're going to follow these traditional patterns of where this miniature is going to typically have some stubble, and we're just going to take it really easy and really lightly, and you don't want it to be in a wash consistency per se. So if you do have a wash consistency, make sure you dab off that excess. But this model is completely and fully highlighted so that we can create this stubble appearance, and the highlights will be ever so prevalent, even though we're putting in this stubble, this 5 o'clock shadow. So take your time with it. Make sure you get some of that blue in those recesses. Don't really focus too hard on the raised surfaces. But give yourself a good coat. Push the stuff up into the shadows and keep a nice thin coat. And you'll see over a couple of passes that this will turn into a really nice 5 o'clock shadow for you. Now, we'll give it a second. We'll let it dry out a little bit, and then we'll kind of do another layer here. So give me just a second to do that, and we'll be right back. So, with my guy here, he's got a small pool of paint right in the recess of his cheek. I don't like that. It doesn't look natural. It's very unsavory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more coat, even though I'm pretty happy with this kind of result as it is. I need to fix this weird kind of anomaly, this weird kind of, I don't know, pool, if you will. So I'm going to get in there and I'm going to kind of glaze myself out of a problem if I can. Best thing to do is just kind of work it around, and again kind of keep your shade into the recesses more. It's not necessarily a shade per se, but what we're trying to do is soften any of this blemish we've created and rework it. Now don't forget his sideburns. A lot of times people forget those sideburns. And I'm having a bit of trouble with this little crevice here, but keep working away at it, and you'll find that you can really control things easily by moving it around into the deeper recesses. And that'll really give you a good 5 o'clock shadow here. Homeboy's already looking pretty grizzled, pretty mean, pretty angry as it is. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep reinforcing a lot of this, hitting these areas. Let that paint dry. Don't get too aggressive. Otherwise, it will kind of get away from you. As it stands right now, I'm fairly happy with the tone of the 5 o'clock shadow. That is pretty much on point. with what I'm looking for. It's a really simple technique. Gentlemen out there, you know where your shaving is, so make sure you take your time, trace out where your shaving is, and then you can always come back in and re-highlight these lips a little bit with your flesh tones, and you're good to go. Now, the same application is going to happen on top of the head. You're going to want to follow your typical hair patterns, if you will. So this would kind of come up around his temple here, and then maybe he's got a little bit of a widow's peak or something. But keep them servo, whatever the hell these things are, these little servo things, keep that out of play. And then kind of trace around with his stubble going all the way around, and you'll have a nice look for a shaved, fresh kind of head, if you will, right? So let's move on to the less advanced version, and let's talk about maybe doing it more for a tabletop type situation. So I've already got a nice base coat for your flesh. This works for Caucasian flesh. This works for any type of flesh that isn't necessarily a African American or deeper tone, like homeboy on his left here versus homeboy on his right here. This is very Caucasian. This is very African American. We're going to lean towards the Caucasian effect. But with that shadow flesh, I'm going to use a little bit of tan flesh as my beginning highlight, right? So same situation here. I'm going to take just a tiny little bit of this blue, and I'm going to add it to my tan flesh. And essentially what that's going to do is turn this kind of a gross gray color, right? So I just want to add just a little bit more flesh to it because it's a little aggressive right now. And then I'm going to take and thin it down slightly just so I got some good coverage, even coverage. I'm not looking for a glaze consistency or anything like that. It's still going to very much be a layered paint, but it does have some translucency to it. Let's see if I can illustrate that here. See that translucency? So what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to do a beard around this dude. Well, we're going to treat it very similarly to a layer where we want to kind of add in that influence, right? But we're going to just kind of layer it on as opposed to go crazy with it here. Now, it might not look awesome right away because I'm kind of going fast here and it's out of focus. Sorry about that. But as you paint this on, you should start to see that kind of stubble effect. It's just a little bit gray, a little bit dingy. And then when you start to layer in your normal color, your normal flesh tone, mid-tone, you'll see it next to it really kind of pop and really start to work. Come on, focus in for me. Focus in for me. Not too close. But as I do this layer here, say on his regular skin tone, then you start to see that magic happen, right? Now you start to see that kind of 5 o'clock shadow on there. And I'm not going to go through it all here because I'm kind of just slopping this on right now. But you guys get the point. I'll show you on the little lady here just a second that I just showed you. Essentially what you're going to do is you're going to add that blue to your layer and create that 5 o'clock shadow. Now obviously I'm going to take a little bit more time with it than I am during this, but the point is to do a quick tip here and show you guys an easy way to create stubble, right? So you can see that difference between the two tones there. It's not the prettiest, but let me bring out my little badass chick here one more time so you guys can see the effect on a properly painted head. This was done using the layer effect because this miniature is going to be painted start to finish month by month with one of my awesome patrons, one of you fine folks. So this is what we did in our one-on-one class last night, was the face and flesh tones. So you can see that shaved head. So there you go. 2 different versions of how to paint awesome stubble, shaved heads, 5 o'clock shadows. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank you guys. This is the last quick tip for October. If you are departing from the Patreon, thank you so much for your support through the month of October. I hope you learned something and enjoyed your time. If I see you in November, I look forward to a bunch of badass content going forward. Thank you all so much. Have a great week, and happy freaking Halloween.